So obviously, Anthem had a major presence at EA's recent E3 press event earlier, and a lot of new and interesting information has come out on the game in the last few days. Some of it good, some of it, well, not so good. Here in this feature, we're going to take a look at the 15 most significant and major new things we've learned about the upcoming Anthem in recent days. Not an MMO. Right from the get-go, BioWare's Casey Hudson was adamant on making it clear that Anthem is not an MMO. It's a shared world experience. In that regard, it's a lot like Destiny and The Division, in that the world we play in is the world every single player will play in, but it's not going to be an overcrowded, completely collective experience. That's something we've had a fair about idea for some time, but BioWare were very clear with this information this time around, to clearly demarcate what the game is and what it isn't. Can be played solo. Though it's an online-focused experience, Anthem is going to be playable solo as well. Again, just like Destiny and The Division. The game is very much intended to be a co-op experience, with the ideal number of players in a group being 4, but if you should wish to do so, you can tackle every mission in Anthem all by yourself. Of course, the game and its missions are designed and structured around the idea that you'll be playing in the company of others, so it might be more challenging if you're all by yourself, but if you should wish to do so regardless, well, that's entirely possible. Requires internet. That said, Anthem is a game that will require an internet connection if you want to play it. Even if you're playing the game solo, you won't be able to play it offline. Understandably, a large number of people may not be pleased about it. Many have already voiced their displeasure quite vocally, but ultimately it's no surprise that the game requires a persistent online connection. It is, after all, a shared world game, so it's not a huge surprise that it cannot be accessed without an internet connection. Narrative-driven. In spite of 2 impressive showings over the course of 2 consecutive E3s, Anthem has still been receiving some flack from a large number of people, based on the fact that the game seems to be moving away from BioWare's long and storied legacy of developing single-player story-driven titles. That said, although Anthem is different from BioWare's past endeavors in the sense that it's no longer a solo experience, the studio has made efforts to make it clear to anyone who listens that the game is still going to be a very much a narrative-driven experience. We've been told that we can expect a rich, beautiful world replete with deep lore and engaging stories to get lost in. This is something shared world games have almost never been able to properly accomplish, so color us cautiously excited about this. Single-player areas. Anthem differs from the likes of Destiny and The Division in some pretty significant ways, as you may have imagined. Though it's an online-centric shared world title, it's still very much story-driven, as we just discussed. This means that certain areas of the game are going to be exclusively single-player. To be more precise, the hub areas of the game are going to be ones that you can explore and tackle by yourself, talking to NPCs, advancing the story, and collecting new quests. When you go out into the wilds to undertake these quests, will be when the game comes into its online-centric nature. Setting and lore. So we've spoken plenty about the game's narrative and its focus on telling a story, but what exactly is its story going to be? Well, the background lore of the game's world that acts as the foundation of its narrative actually sounds pretty interesting. Anthem is set on a world that is, to put it simply, unfinished. Hopefully not a commentary on what the game itself will be like. The world is in a chaotic, unfinished state, explaining why it's such a harsh and wild place. The only thing we do know is something known as the Anthem of Creation. However, how this will play into the larger plot is something that remains to be seen. Narrative setup. It is in the backdrop of all this stuff that Anthem's story takes place. We play as a freelancer, people who take on jobs from people to go out into the world for sustenance, survival, or other reasons, braving the harsh, lush wilds with the help of exosuits called JAVELINs. Thanks to the world's chaotic nature, a deadly and dangerous storm is being whipped up, which threatens to wipe out all humanity on the planet. But that's not even the only threat we're going to face. A group known as the Dominion is looking to harness the powers of the Anthem as a weapon for themselves, and they will serve as the game's main antagonists. Javelin suits. The star of the show in Anthem are going to be the exosuits the player will wear and use for everything from survival to traversal to combat. The world of Anthem is going to be a dangerous one, and the Javelins are going to be both our offense and our defense against all its hazards. There are going to be 4 Javelin exosuits players can choose from, which will essentially serve as classes of sorts. The heavy hitter Colossus, the long-range Storm, the speedy Interceptor, and the versatile jack-of-all-trades Ranger. Each will have distinct advantages and disadvantages over all others, and players won't be restricted to using just one. You can pick whichever you want. The only time you can't switch between different suits will be during missions. Progression. Javelins, of course, will be modifiable and customizable, meaning that you won't have to stick with preset powers and abilities with each suit. Interestingly enough, though, each of these 4 exosuits will also have their own individual skill trees, which is where the bulk of the game's progression mechanics will be. Players will be able to upgrade and level up each of their javelins by advancing through their unique and individual skill trees as they see fit. Destructible environments. The fact that Anthem is built on the Frostbite engine is something that's been made a big deal of in the media. So, obviously, we all expect that it will be leveraging the engine's capabilities, beyond just looking good. Thankfully, that is indeed going to be the case, but disappointingly, not to the extent one might hope. BioWare's Mark Darrah has confirmed that there will be some level of environment destruction in Anthem, which is something we've seen in footage as well. However, he's also said that the destruction won't be permanent. Contracts. Throughout different activities, players will see different things, which seems to indicate that not all missions will play out in the same fashion. You can embark on expeditions with friends with dedicated servers being confirmed. When events are deployed, this allows different players across different servers to see them at the same time. Players can also immediately hop into each other's games with contracts. These are essentially broadcasts that alert players about the free space on one's party as a mission is ongoing. Other players can then join in, and once the mission is complete, they can continue playing together on other missions. Think of it as similar to Monster Hunter World's SOS flares. Limited dialogue choices. Dialogue choices is another one of those core pillars of a BioWare game that we just spoke of. Thankfully, Anthem is still going to have dialogue options. We expect them to be features in the game's hub areas, which are going to be single-player and story-focused, as we discussed earlier. However, BioWare has also confirmed that the dialogue options in the game are going to be limited as compared to what we might be used to seeing from their games. How limited? How much of an impact will they have on narrative progression? How much variety will there be in the dialogue choices? These are sadly things we do not know yet. No PvP at launch. Anthem also won't have any PvP features or mechanics at launch. As a shared world experience, its focus is going to be squarely on cooperative play, and during single-player only sections on narrative development, which means that competitive play between players is not going to be part of the game, at least at launch. BioWare may have plans to add that stuff down the road, but there's no details on any such feature or more yet. This also means that all those reports we've been hearing about Anthem looking to cash in on the Battle Royale craze are, at least for now, unfounded. Microtransactions. Microtransactions, also known as EA's Oxygen. The publisher's monetization practices in their games have been met with a lot of negative reception over the years. But last year with Star Wars Battlefront 2, and then to a lesser extent, and less prominently with Need for Speed Payback, the entire thing finally blew up in their face. So yeah, EA certainly seems to be stepping around the topic of microtransactions a little gingerly, as they should. As far as Anthem is concerned, the game won't have any loot boxes or pay-to-win mechanics. There will, however, be some cosmetic microtransactions in the game. Release date. Finally, at E3 we also learned the exact day when Anthem will be launching. Following its reveal last year, the game was originally going to launch in 2018 itself, but it was subsequently, and to no one's surprise, delayed a few months later. It's now been confirmed that Anthem will be launching for the PS4, Xbox One and PC on February 22nd of next year. Let's hope it doesn't get delayed beyond that.
And that about does it for this video. If you enjoyed what you watched and want to see more from GamingBolt, you can always hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell icon next to it. That way you will never miss any of our videos.